Paul, an Australian rules footballer professional who is 32 years old, recently sustained a grade 2 strain to his left biceps femoris longhead. 3 weeks ago, during the sprint in the last quarter of the game, the injury happened. The first week of therapy was devoted to pain management and isometric hip extensor and knee flexor exercises. Paul has been doing long-duration hamstring workouts with a focus on eccentric strengthening for the past 2 weeks. Along the way, he's gotten faster at running and is now taking part in most team training exercises. The expectation in the AFL domain are varied and high. Important skills include sprinting, agility, explosive power, endurance, and the capacity to compete physically. Then sudden direction changes and high-intensity movements of the game put a special stress on the condition and functionality of the hamstrings. These muscles are essential for rapid sprints, explosive movements, and the sudden direction changes that characterize AFL play. Explosive power is essential for sprinting swiftly, making games, and springing for the ball. Wood, 2018. Paul's capacity to produce explosive force without running the danger of re-injury must be assessed. AFL matches require a lot of endurance, with some matches requiring over 15 kilometers to be run by each individual. Paul's aerobic fitness is essential to ensuring that he can play the entire game because players must cover a lot of ground sometimes. During sprints in the AFL, athletes must accelerate quickly both straight ahead and while changing directions. For Paul, having his hamstring injury fully healed is essential to having the best possible agility performance in game. The slalom-type agility test is typically used for the AFL that mimics a roughly 40-meter run in total, which is comparable to AFL run rates. I'm going to play this video in the background here. The assessment criteria is as follows. 1. Record the video taken by the participant to compete in the slalom course. Shorter times indicate better agility. 2. Observe the participant's technique, looking for a smooth transition between cones, quick changes around those cones, as you can see there, of direction, and minimal loss of speed. 3. Ensure the participant passes or touches each cone in the correct sequence. Penalties can be applied for missed cones or incorrect order. My third battery test is Nordic hamstring curls. This exercise possesses a strong correlation with injury prevention. In teams recruiting this in their injury prevention bi-weekly programs showed an injury reduction compared to normal prevention programs of up to 51%, ATAR 2017. With emphasis on ensuring that return to sport is safe after injuries often taking at least 4 weeks to be biologically sound, Peters 2021, this exercise that loads the hamstrings in the same fashion as sprinting is crucial to determine the re-injury chance in 3 weeks early period after the injury. Some key points to note is to evaluate the ability to control the descent and ascent, focusing on hamstring strength, and he should be able to perform the whole eccentric repetition of the exercise. We also have the ANHEC rating scale, which gives us an outline on how to perform the test and administer the test. The yo-yo test is my third battery test, which has a 20-meter distance, which is relative to the AFL. Firstly, participants start behind one of the lines. On a beep, they run to the opposite line, which is 20 meters away, before the next beep. After reaching the line, they must turn and return to the starting line before the next beep. The time between beeps gradually decreases, forcing participants to increase their running speed to match the beeps. The test continues until the participant can no longer maintain that required pace or until they voluntarily stop, and it goes up to 67 levels. Wood 2018. This score is then marked and can be compared to previous held values or his club's benchmarks values. Normative data by Bangsbo 2008 shows elite levels being 22.5 or above. It should, however, be considered that elite level AFL players have varying degrees of aerobic endurance. as injuries most often occur under fatigue. This cardiovascular endurance test can demonstrate how resistant the athlete is to fatigue. This has been shown in electrical stimulation studies, showcasing the lower force absorption rate of fatigued muscle and reduced capacity to over-lengthening, OPAR 2012. Alongside this, Paul did incur his injury in the last quarter of play. This could possibly be attributed to a deficiency in endurance performance. For my psychological-based questionnaire, before and after the battery of tests, I used FRES, which is the Fear of Return to Sport questionnaire. The correlation coefficient for these questions is quite high at 0.8 and above, some being 0.96, showing that the relation to that and their actual fear of returning to sport was very high in a systematic review by Kalatakis, 2022. And during the program, I also employed a pain scale, a numerical pain scale. And anything above 3 caused ceasing of exercise and possibly negating his return to sport criteria. And this is due to higher pain tolerances and grit in elite athletes has been found to sometimes be better and reduce the exercise cutoff at 3 instead of 4. This is due to their increased grit and their determination to continue the sport, sometimes to the detriment of themselves and re-injury chance happening during the exercise. So I cut it off at 3. Thank you for listening.